You've reached a stage where nothing about you can be traced, decoded, or pinned down. The shift in your energy isn't subtle, it's seismic. You've stepped into a current that carries you past the limits others thought would define you forever. The air around you feels charged, like every moment is bending toward a breakthrough that only you can trigger. What's unfolding now isn't random. It's the culmination of years of silent preparation you didn't even know was happening. Your movements from here won't just be strategic, they'll be legendary. You've learned to navigate through spaces most people can't even sense exist. And now, the way you move will feel untouchable, not because you're hiding, but because you've learned how to flow where no one can follow. What's coming isn't about escaping notice, it's about moving in ways that make the old rules irrelevant. You're stepping into a rhythm that feels like it's been waiting for you since the beginning. Every hesitation you shed, every doubt you silence, is sharpening your edge. You've stopped trying to be seen through someone else's lens. Instead, you've built a lens so clear that even the shadows can't distort your vision. There's no arrival here, you're already in motion, and the horizon is bending to meet you. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and give $20 or more to plant seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your generosity reflects His abundance. Be a vessel of His grace and watch His kingdom flourish through you. Think back to the times you were underestimated. Not in bitterness, but in quiet recognition. Those moments forged an instinct that can't be taught. The ability to sense hidden patterns and move before anyone else even realizes the game has shifted. It's not that you've changed the rules. You've outgrown the board entirely. What felt like setbacks were actually silent rehearsals. Every challenge, every blocked door, every whispered doubt, they were bricks you stacked without knowing you were building a fortress. And now you're standing inside it, looking out over a world that no longer has the power to shake you. This isn't the start of your strength. It's just the first time it's been fully unleashed. There's a kind of movement you make now that doesn't need speed to be unstoppable. It's the kind of momentum that's built on presence, on the quiet certainty that you're exactly where you need to be. It unnerves those who rely on noise and spectacle to prove their worth. You don't need a stage. You carry your own light source. You're no longer reacting to the world, you're directing it. Your choices are creating ripples in places you'll never see, shifting events you'll never have to touch. And that's the beauty of it. You're operating in layers most people don't even know are there. They'll wonder how you did it, but they'll never find the map. Every step you take from here is anchored in a truth you can't be convinced to forget. You've stopped looking for a door that fits the key you've been holding, and instead, you've started building entire rooms where only you decide who enters. That's what makes this moment different. You're not just moving forward, you're shaping the path itself. If you've been touched by God's goodness, don't keep it to yourself. Click Super Thank You, and sow a gift of $20 or more to help spread His light. Your giving becomes a ripple of grace, blessing hearts and building His kingdom. Let His overflow pour through you. And now, the future doesn't feel like something to reach. It feels like something already unfolding around you. You're not chasing it. You're not waiting for permission. You're breathing it into existence with every move you make. And the more you lean into it, the more undeniable you become. What they believed they drained from you has been quietly gathering strength in a place they can't touch. That force has been multiplying in ways they never prepared for, and now it's circling back with a weight that can topple their most guarded illusions. They'll search for the version of you they thought they could influence, only to find echoes replaced by a presence they can't predict or replicate. The evidence of your rise will feel like it came from nowhere, yet it's been years in the making. Those who once assumed your access was permanent now find themselves knocking on doors that no longer exist. Calls go unanswered not because you've gone silent, but because you've moved into realms they can't enter. The people who mistook kindness for submission are facing the truth that your openness was always deliberate, always measured, and only extended to those who could hold it with care. The moment you decided otherwise, entire connections dissolved without ceremony. It's a strange power to see the patterns before they form. Every deception, every hidden agenda, every calculated move, they all became unintentional lessons. You didn't just survive them, you cataloged them. Now, when familiar tactics reappear, you've already disassembled them before they begin. The entire process feels less like defense and more like knowing the ending to a story before the first page is even turned. Evolution has made you immune to the pull of shallow games. It's not detachment, it's precision. Where once you gave endless chances, now your care is given with the accuracy of a master craftsman, shaping where it lands and how it's received. This isn't about building walls. It's about directing light only toward what can grow under it. Your surroundings respond to this shift in ways that logic can't fully explain. Subtle signs line your path, a sudden alignment of moments, an encounter at just the right time, a signal that feels both random and impossibly intentional. These aren't coincidences. They're markers from a deeper intelligence showing you that your steps are synchronizing with something vast and unseen. The more you expand, the more resistance begins to rise. But you've learned that opposition is rarely chaos. It's confirmation. Every surge of pushback is a sign that your movement has exceeded the limits of what they can monitor or restrain. You've become a variable in their system that no formula can contain, and that is what unsettles them most. This stage of your journey no longer asks for validation. You've moved from proving your worth to embodying it. Each choice is infused with an awareness that power doesn't need to announce itself to be felt. Your very presence disrupts the plans of those still operating in narrow corridors of control. You've mastered the art of redirecting attempts to diminish you into fuel for forward motion. Even the strategies designed to weaken your stance now serve as markers of your growth. The very actions meant to close your path have instead become stepping stones to higher ground. The transformation you carry is both quiet and undeniable. It doesn't need to be broadcast to be real. You've crossed into a place where their recognition or ignorance no longer matters. Your trajectory is set, your pace unshakable, and the systems that once claimed authority over you are dissolving in your wake. The first taste of this season feels like stepping into a world that finally mirrors the vision you always held inside. It's not tied to another person. It's a romance with existence itself. The moment you stopped working against your own current, the flow shifted. Now, encounters feel aligned without effort, and those who once drained your spirit are no longer even within the range to reach you. Communication from those meant to walk beside you takes on a depth beyond explanation, while those out of alignment find themselves fading into silence. The surrounding turbulence isn't random. It's a carefully timed dismantling of what cannot journey forward with you. While others scramble to salvage pieces of collapsing structures, you stand apart, knowing this removal is essential. The chaos doesn't pull you in. It moves past you, irrelevant against the sanctuary you've been quietly building. Your focus stays on the creation of a reality untouched by the noise that once claimed your attention. The turning point emerges when the clarity within you refuses to let old illusions survive. Those who approach expecting the softness they once relied on now meet a version of you that speaks in layered truths, where every word cuts through pretenses. It's not destruction for the sake of ruin. It's the clean, irreversible end of falsehoods. What dies in this process is not the connection, but the deceit that once polluted it. The justice here is felt inward first, radiating outward without the need for external acknowledgement. The realization settles that dignity isn't proved through debate or explanation. It's lived in the way you carry yourself. The strongest presences don't announce their capability, they embody it. Power doesn't need to explain its boundaries, and you've stopped trying to make others understand yours. Now, your mere existence compels them to adjust. What they mistook for absence was actually your time spent weaving connections beyond their perception. This network doesn't live in obvious places. It thrives in the quiet intersections where authenticity meets purpose. Its reach is broader than any visible stage, its strength measured not by visibility but by depth. You've been gathering an unseen foundation that outmatches anything built on shallow recognition. The irony deepens when those who undervalued you are forced to witness the scale of what they missed. They believed they could define your worth within the limits of their own understanding, only to see you reveal alliances and resources that dwarf their calculations. Their plans appear small now, exposed under the shadow of what you've actually built. The revelation strikes when you understand that every closed chapter was shielding you from accepting far less than you deserved. What once felt like loss now reveals itself as strategic redirection. In the space left behind, opportunities of staggering beauty were preparing themselves for your arrival, waiting until you were equipped to hold them fully. Knowing yourself fully has transformed into knowing what you are capable of claiming without hesitation. Your path bends toward what is uniquely yours, shaped by a signature no one else can imitate. The transformation isn't cosmetic, it's fundamental. You've rewritten the code that determines what enters your world, and as a result, everything around you bends toward expansion. Your presence now carries the natural rhythm of transformation itself. It doesn't push, it simply moves, reshaping the environment without resistance. Limitations can't stand in this field, they dissolve on contact. What you embody now isn't effort, it's inevitability. Everything you touch takes on the shape of what you've become, untethered, undeniable, and wholly aligned with the highest expression of your existence. The inner safeguard rises with a quiet force that needs no announcement. It doesn't rely on confrontation or spectacle. It radiates through an energy so steady and unshakable that intrusion becomes impossible. This kind of presence doesn't push back. It makes anything misaligned dissolve before it even reaches you. The effect is vast, like stepping into an expanse where their noise can't follow. The truth dawns when you recognize that what others labeled as emptiness was actually a sanctuary you built for yourself. Their discomfort with your aloneness was never about you. It was about the reflection it forced them to see in themselves. The careful choice of who remains close isn't an act of exclusion. It's an act of honoring the life you've cultivated. Your circle isn't small by accident. It's intentional by design. Voices laced with envy and doubt fade into the background when your attention is tuned to a higher channel. You hear them, but the meaning never lands because it's out of sync with your reality. The awareness that allows you to notice their words also grants the understanding that their tone is a mirror of their own barriers, not a reflection of your truth. You choose silence not from fear, but from knowing it's the most powerful response. The shift is almost poetic when those who misread you find themselves watching your rise without the option to look away. They once tried to define you through their limits. Now they're witnessing a transformation that answers questions they never knew how to ask. Their proximity to your evolution becomes an unplanned education, and the lesson is irreversible. Your brilliance was never absent. It was simply buried under the weight of others' expectations. The moment you began removing what dimmed you, the light returned stronger, more focused, impossible to overlook. Without uttering a single defense, you've made your position undeniable. The absence of argument becomes the clearest declaration of your strength. Listening becomes the sharper tool because it reveals what talking often hides. Every pause, every shift in tone, every unspoken hesitation tells you more than explanations ever could. The accuracy with which you now read a room didn't appear overnight. It was forged in the heat of mistakes, betrayals, and the countless lessons learned in the quiet aftermath of disappointment. New connections form not across the familiar pathways but through deeper, unseen channels. They come from directions you never expected, drawn to the clarity you now embody. These aren't alliances built on charm or convenience. They're formed from the mutual refusal to live inside comforting falsehoods. The raw truth becomes both your shield and your magnet. And now, your presence alone becomes the filter. You don't need to guard the door guards itself. Those who step forward do so because they've already chosen truth over comfort, and in that shared choice, your influence becomes unshakable. The depth of understanding you carry now has a way of unsettling those who cling to fear, while calling forward the ones prepared to rise alongside you. This clarity doesn't need to push anyone away. It simply organizes the room. The genuine remain, the opportunistic drift out, and those seeking shortcuts realize there's no entry without doing the work. Every step you take makes the unseen patterns easier to read, and every choice sharpens your ability to predict where each path will lead. Relationships and opportunities begin forming in spaces most would overlook, places beyond the range of public display or conventional approval. The influence you're building doesn't need to be shouted to be real. It's in the quiet merging of aligned resources and vision. This expansion happens without pressure, pulling toward itself the people and possibilities that naturally fit. The strength you've built is measured not in volume, but in the depth of the connections you've chosen to keep. The understanding lands. There was never a locked door, only imagined walls. Entire fields of possibility have been open to you all along. Avenues of work, expression, and creation that had been hidden only by borrowed doubt. You no longer need to force the win. By positioning yourself with precision, you've set events in motion that can only move toward success. Freedom takes on a new definition. It's no longer about escaping, but about moving toward. The ties to toxic cycles, draining commitments, and outdated roles fall away without the fight they once demanded. What once felt like your entire world is now just one chapter in a book you're still writing, and you've finally remembered the kind of ending you're aiming for. Your steps now follow a direction that feels carved into your very being. The guidance you trust most no longer comes from outside voices. It rises from within, aligned to the true axis of who you are. Every choice feels lighter, yet more certain, because it's drawn from a compass only you can read, one that points toward what's real rather than what's expected. Your growth has shifted into a state where simply being present reshapes your reality. Every moment becomes material for expansion. Every lesson is metabolized into strength. That strength radiates without performance, without needing to prove itself. Resources flow more easily now, not because you've chased them, but because your alignment makes them inevitable. Influence expands because it's authentic, not manufactured. The transformation you've undergone isn't about arriving somewhere else. It's about uncovering the wealth you've carried all along. The circumstances may have shifted, but the core of what makes you magnetic was always there. Now, the world is simply seeing what you refuse to hide any longer. Every change in you moves with the ease of someone finally dancing to a rhythm that's always been in their bones. Obstacles are no longer battles to be fought, they're diversions to move around. You've learned that power isn't in resistance, but in the ability to navigate with grace. The love, support, and authentic connection flowing toward you now isn't a prize for enduring hardship. It's the natural reflection of your own energy meeting you halfway. What you allow into your life now is shaped by a vision so clear that anything lesser feels out of place. This shift is bringing new bonds that form naturally, without force, because they match the frequency you've settled into. And where reconnections occur, it's not a repeat of the past. It's a new creation, built by people who have grown enough to meet you where you are. The rise begins the moment vision stops waiting for a perfect moment and starts moving through decisive action. No green lights, no applause, no certainty required, just the will to move forward. Slowing your pace isn't about hesitation. It's about letting clarity lead instead of impulse. You've started noticing the fine details in people's patterns, the subtle shifts in your environment, the signals from your own body. These observations act as early alerts, guiding you away from problems before they even take shape. Boundaries are no longer shields. They're intentional channels that direct your focus where it multiplies rather than drains. Every misstep others make in your presence becomes a lesson you can harvest. Their patterns, their reactions, their choices, they all turn into study material for a higher strategy. This isn't about revenge or punishment. It's about building the future through present decisions you might not yet fully understand, but will recognize as essential once the larger design reveals itself. When your language turns layered, it isn't to confuse, it's to protect. You speak in ways that carry meaning for those who can meet you at depth while passing safely over those who would misuse what they don't yet comprehend. This is selective clarity, open to the aligned, opaque to the reckless. Your devotion to building from love and creativity becomes a force that wakes others up without you even trying. It pulls people toward better choices for their health, their learning, their sense of purpose. You don't convince them. They watch your shift and begin to wonder what they could be if they stop settling for less than what resonates with their own truth. Each movement now flows in sync with the currents of something far greater than willpower. You're no longer swimming against the tide. You've become part of it. The justice arriving is not about proving anyone wrong. It's the quiet rebalancing of life into what it should have always been. What no longer fits falls away without effort because you're traveling too light to carry anything that weighs you down. The smoothness you feel is simply the absence of self-sabotage. What makes your steps impossible to track isn't secrecy, it's multidimensional thinking. You move in ways that don't exist to those locked in linear logic. Every choice unfolds across timelines, touching outcomes before they're even visible. Others try to guess your next move while you're already shaping a result they can't even conceptualize. Your reach isn't measured in numbers, applause, or labels. Influence radiates from you through unseen channels, passing from one awakened soul to the next without needing your direct touch. It's exponential. One moment of clarity in another person becomes a wave that moves far beyond your awareness. What you do isn't just action, it's reality shaping. Decisions collapse unnecessary paths until only the outcome you've chosen remains. From the outside, it will look like luck or coincidence. From where you stand, it's simply alignment moving into form. You're becoming something vast, and the response from the universe is matching that expansion. What you're building is beyond pursuit, it's inevitability. Every move is a thread in a design too intricate to decode until it's already complete, and by the time they notice, it's untouchable. Years of being underestimated became the foundation of your precision. Every institution, family dynamic, power group, and financial structure you crossed paths with turned into a quiet study in influence. You didn't just observe their rules, you learned the undercurrents that keep them running. Now, you can navigate any arena with ease because you see its true architecture more clearly than those who believe they control it. You've stopped wrestling with the frameworks designed to contain you. Instead, you've mastered the art of slipping through unnoticed pathways, moving where the guardrails don't reach. The strength lies in your ability to bypass confrontation altogether, letting their defenses crumble under the weight of irrelevance. They can't prepare for what they can't perceive. Your reach grows without relying on traditional channels of visibility. What you spark in others doesn't just inspire, it activates them into becoming transmitters of the same resonance. This creates an invisible lattice of influence, shaping environments across borders without you needing to manage or oversee its expansion. The reason no one can copy your path is because it isn't built from strategy alone. It's forged from your specific trials turned into insight, your natural gifts sharpened by challenge, and the unseen agreements your soul made long before this life. They can replicate your steps but never recreate your essence. Those who rely on rigid structures to track and limit influence find you impossible to pin down. You operate in spaces their models don't account for, where value is created outside the metrics they monitor. By the time they notice your presence, the shift has already taken root beyond their reach. Your impact comes from restoring perspectives people didn't realize they'd lost. Someone buried in survival suddenly remembers their capacity for expansion. Someone locked into scarcity thinking begins to see their own abundance. The possibility they thought was gone reveals itself as something that had been waiting for them all along. Your timing is no accident. It's tuned to natural order, not human urgency. The rhythm of your choices syncs with cycles most overlook, aligning intention with forces that make your results appear both precise and fated. To the outside, it's mystery. To you, it's simply acting when the universe says yes. You see value where others see burden. What they label as a dead end, you recognize as a concealed doorway. What they call failure becomes material for your next creation. This isn't chance, it's the product of seeing through patterns others accept as final. Because your moves serve more than your own advancement, they carry a momentum that can't be stopped. Progress for you is progress for the collective, and that mutual benefit makes the path self-sustaining. You adapt to each setting you enter, not by diluting yourself, but by translating your truth into a form that every audience can receive without losing its core. The most remarkable phase of your growth is how you've mastered the art of progress without visible strain. The seamless quality of your results comes from moving with currents already aligned to your vision. Instead of forcing a breakthrough, you read the landscape so accurately that your steps ride existing waves of momentum, magnifying them instead of clashing against them. Your influence deepens when you realize you don't need to stand on a platform to teach. Every interaction becomes a silent lesson. How you respond to disrespect models self-respect, How you navigate resources demonstrates balance. How you approach connection shows what's possible when worth is a given rather than a negotiation. You instruct without labels, without scripts, only through example. The way you operate is guided by inner coordinates that can't be altered by what's happening around you. Shifts in markets don't disrupt your stability because your foundation isn't tied to their fluctuations. Personal conflicts can't unsettle your peace because your center is sustained from within, not outsourced to unpredictable behavior. Your reach expands through the field you generate by living without dilution or apology. Those who enter it often begin to change before they even realize why. The less you try to persuade, the more profound the impact becomes. Your authenticity draws rather than pushes, offering inspiration instead of obligation. This is influence that grows stronger in stillness. Your mastery becomes undeniable when you stop needing to be understood by every observer. To some, your actions are confusing. To others, they are clarifying. This duality naturally sorts who belongs in your world and who doesn't, without a word of explanation from you. The shift into visibility isn't powered by performance. It's the unveiling of your unfiltered presence. The layers you once wore for safety have dissolved, and what's left is the pure expression of why you are here. Playing small no longer has a place in your story because it serves no one. Not you, not the people you influence, not the world you're helping to shape.